Welcome to Building the Future, hosted by Kevin Horick. With millions of listeners a month, Building the Future has quickly become one of the fastest rising programs, with a focus on interviewing startups, entrepreneurs, investors, CEOs, and more. The radio and TV show airs in 15 markets across the globe, including Silicon Valley. For full showtimes, past episodes, or to sponsor the show, please visit buildingthefutureshow.com.
Welcome back to the show. Today we have Jamie Bianchini. He's the co-founder and CEO at LuDela. Jamie, welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much. Good to be back.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you back on the show. I was looking earlier before we recorded. It's been a couple years since you were last on the show. So I'm selfishly fascinated to see kind of your journey and cover all the new stuff. But for people that don't know you and LuDela, you have a really, really cool story of how everything came to be. So do you maybe want to walk us through a bit of your childhood, where you grew up, where you went to school, and then give us a really good overview of how LuDela came to be? Because the story is really quite fascinating for people that haven't heard it.
Yeah, I grew up in a pretty standard, middle class, upper middle class, raising. Went to college at USC, University of Southern California, and studied business there. And thought I could kind of conquer the world right out of college, and ended up driving myself into bankruptcy. Wow. By the time I was 28, I declared bankruptcy and just made a ton of silly mistakes when I was young. And but then decided to do what I really loved in life, which was to ride my bike around the world, and founded an international cycling expedition called Peace Pedalers, where I rode a tandem bicycle, the front seat, and left the back seat of the tandem bike open to pick up strangers and turn strangers into friends in a project called Peace Pedalers.
Okay.
Epic journey. Ended up being 8 years, 81 countries.
How did you come up with the idea, though, originally?
It was me and one of my buddies from college. We were, coming up. We were just trying to find a way to do what we really loved, and coming up with different names and concepts and ways to get sponsors to pay for our trip around the world. So one thing led to another. We wanted to put our heart into something, make a difference in the world, but still have a lot of fun. So we built these tandem bicycles that can become single mountain bikes as well. So really, it was a dream trip because we can go out and pick up strangers out in the way and make new friends and connect with the world, but still ride mountain bikes, turning the tandems into singles. So it's quite an engineering feat to create those bikes too. And we ended up getting sponsored by Panasonic and about 40 other companies to do this big trip. And then that leads to where this whole journey comes up, because about halfway through, I was in Burkina Faso, which is in West Africa. And I was in a candle fire. I fell asleep with the candle burning inside of my little guest house I was in, and just passed out and woke up to a candle fire. And it was really scary, smoky. It was more smoke than anything. It was just smoky and scary, and woke up. I was able to put it out. But the next day on the bike, I invented this new way to enjoy real flame candlelight by enabling technology in the real flame candlelight fixture, and actually creating these things now called candlelight fixtures. So that led us to, when I was on your show last, we had molded our way into creating these things called a smart candle, where we were going to use a smartphone and turn on candles with a smartphone, and everything was going IoT and everything's going smart home. And so that seemed to be what I should do. Okay. But it really wasn't the safest way to do it, because the problem with that product was that it's a non-line of sight ignition of an open flame. So what I mean by that is, when you light a candle, you have to, right now, they've been around for 5,000 years. When you light a candle, you take responsibility for, I'm lighting this open flame, right? It could burn my house down if I don't take care of it. So, but there's no product liability to it, because you're the one lighting the open flame. You're making the decision. That's why it says put it in a safe place, keep it out of reach of children and pets, all those different things. But when we made the smart candle, it sounded like a great idea at the beginning. We put tons of money into it. We actually made it work, and we were ready to launch it. That's why I was on your show last week. We're going to do this. We're going to launch this, and we're all ready to go. And then we realized that no matter how much technology we put into it, which we were putting a lot of sensor technology to make sure it was safe. The fact is, you were able to light this product without being in the same room. So Bluetooth, that's the nature of Bluetooth, is it goes through walls, right? It goes up and down stairs. And which is great, except for lighting an open flame. So if you say, hey, Alexa, turn on my candles, or use your phone to turn them on, and now you had a candle that was underneath, that got accidentally pushed underneath the drapes, or your little kid made you a drawing and left it next to your candle. We put sensors there, but those sensors weren't always working. And so we had to put the brakes on that product. That's why it's been 2 years pivoting and going out and trying new different things, and almost going out of business, and then coming back out of it. And so it did a lot of twists and turns to try to get to where we are now. And also the social impact. So the other aspect of, what we always were all about, better light, better lives, has always been our brand story, because we wanted to not only create a better candlelight system, but also create better lives. And since we invented the product out in Africa, we decided to try to create better lives in the continent where that inspiration came from and that innovation came from. So we now donate books for every product sold to bring to illuminate the minds of kids less fortunate and bring libraries to underserved communities.
Very cool.
So that's kind of also evolved from that. We were originally going to be giving out solar lights, and we had to pivot out of that because they were way too expensive. And the nations there don't really need solar lights. They need books. They need to be able to get self-sufficient. They need education and literacy. And so we pivoted and changed until we're finally at where we're at now, which is getting ready. We're in mass production and doing we did one production run earlier this month and doing a mass production run at the end of this month of same product, but it's different. It's not smartphone controlled. It's a remote control, real flame candle. It has timers. It still has a lot of safety features with tilt extinguish. And it's really the world's first remote control real flame candle. But you have to point the remote at it and say, I see you, candle. I know that you're in a safe place, right? Because it's using the IR frequency, which is the same as the TV.
Gotcha.
It's still very powerful. You can still create a room full of perfect ambiance with the touch of a button, just not using that mechanism for this particular product.
Gotcha.
Which is much safer, yeah.
No, that makes total sense. I totally get that. You're right. Like, it sounds cooler to be able to turn, like, obviously control fire from a different room, but if you burn your house down or you light something on fire, obviously that's terrible, right? So I totally get why you guys made the decision. But I want to step back a little bit and walk me through some of that journey. So you decided you basically can't, or you want to re-engineer the product. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, we had taken people's money. We had done a pre-order campaign. So people wanted that product. We had hundreds of customers, and they're like, yeah, we want this. And then I had to go back to every one of them and send them an email and say, hey, if you want your money back, let me know and I'll refund your money. And if you don't, and you're willing to let us re-engineer and stay with us as an early adopter customer, let us re-engineer the product with something that's going to be a better product, a safer product for you and your family. And I was in 92 or so % of the people stayed.
Sure.
Because they not only liked, they knew it was going to be some kind of wireless magical way to enjoy a better candlelight experience. We were still going to deliver that, right?
Sure.
The ability to have a way better, hassle-free, easier, more enjoyable candlelight experience, and a safer one.
Sure.
And so we were going to still deliver that, and so that was good. And we've had these people have been with us for over 2 years, and they've been really, really patient. And now they're finally getting their product, and so they're all really excited about that.
Very cool. So I'm curious though, did you guys have to raise more money, or how did you fund this whole thing?
Well, we were pretty much out of money by the time we were at that point, and that was a bad place to be when you know you have to pivot out of a product. And so we kind of kept alive just by getting a couple small extra investors, me not taking a salary and going into horrific debt, which is very irresponsible as a father of 2, now 3. And so, but I just wasn't willing to die. We just did the passion for the Better Light, Better Lives social brand and what we were trying to do. I just knew we'd find a way. So we made a couple different pivots. We started dancing a little bit with Target stores on making a really lower tech version of it.
Okay.
And then we went to a kind of a mid tech version of it that was not going to be as expensive. And every time we kept getting pulled away from the vision I had of the product, which this from a personal level just was gutting me, because you had all these experts like Target saying they wanted this big $1 billion company out of Europe who said they were willing to invest us in a bunch of the CapEx and OpEx expense if we were to do what they wanted to do. And each time they did that, it was just ripping my heart out. And then finally, some of these deals kind of fell through. Target said, "Hey, go out and build the product category first, and go out and build a brand first, then come back." And then finally, we were at this point that there was very little money in the bank, and I said, I'm just going to do it the way I want to do it, the way that I envisioned doing it when I was on the bike, and stop listening to everybody telling me what I should do. And the way I did it at that point, the only thing I could do was go to China and have them do the development, because I had no more money to hire U.S.-based development firms.
Interesting. So you flew to China?
Yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
I fly pretty cheap because my mom retired from the airline, so I fly cheap. So I was able to go to the old vendors I was working with and like, "Look, guys, like this is the product I want to build. Here's the requirements." Right? And I gave them super specific requirements, how I wanted the MCU and the board to be programmed, what I wanted it to do. You know, and if you if you're smart and you have good people in China, and that's not always easy to find.
Sure.
But I found really good people in Hong Kong and China that said, "You give me the requirements. What do you want it to do? What do you want the remote control to do? What do you want this to do? What do you want the timer to do?" And then we went through 18 iterations in the course of almost a year. And it was painstaking, but I found some really good. I found an mechanical engineer on Upwork who was willing to work for super reduced rate because he loved what we were doing, loved our social impact, loved the innovation. And we were able to just go back and forth and just iterate, trying to blend consumer electronics and fire.
Okay,
right?
sure.
I mean, people don't put consumer electronics and fire together, right? Nobody's done that. And generally they try to avoid that, right?
Yeah.
And we were literally trying to blend it together and make it work. And so it took a lot. I mean, it took a lot of just passion and dedication and just hard-headedness, you know, but also really good partnerships and keeping it real with them and being really transparent with, supply chain out in China, a couple parts of China. And so we have 3 supply chain folks in China and 1 in the U.S., which is also down in Mexico. And so, dealing with those relationships was not hard, but it was just, that was important. It was critical because they all supported. They invested not necessarily money, but resources, right?
Sure.
Testing and putting things in prototyping, and then for some reason invoices didn't come for those prototypes, and it was like, they're in, right? They believe in what we're doing. They believe that we're going to create the world's first natural lighting platform. And so that's really, Kevin, if you ask, like, building the future, like creating the future, like, what are we really doing? We're not creating candles.
Sure.
We're creating natural lighting fixtures, right? So
yeah,
the only way that the only choice you have inside your house is artificial light.
Yeah.
That's the only choice. When you go turn the light switch on, is artificial light. And there's been over 500 medical research studies just in the past decade, a lot of them led out in Europe, but some here as well, linking artificial light at night to a myriad of health issues.
Sure.
Because the body is getting flooded with this light that's not natural, and it's messing with the melatonin levels, messing with the circadian rhythms, and people are getting sick. And they're linking it to real proper disorders, health disorders, because people aren't regular. They take in natural food, they take in natural water, natural ingredients, but they take in tons of artificial light. So, this is our first product is a candle product. We are going back to the smart candle, but we're making fixtures, because in the end, what we want to do is create a natural lighting option that people can have the choice of natural or artificial light, or a combination of natural and artificial based on the ambience they're trying to create, what time of day it is. At nighttime, right before bed, you should be getting as low on artificial light and as high on natural light as possible. So enabling that natural light, which can help people live a better light and better lives, have better light and better lives in their lives, at the same time creating a revolution of illuminating the minds of kids by, again, creating a residual, continual stream of illumination by donating the books and building libraries in underserved communities. So when you hit a light switch now and you come home, that light switch for your artificial light does nothing to help anybody. It goes to the power company, everyone makes money, and nobody's making anything. If you hit our light switch, which we do actually have a wall mount that's the shape of a light switch, and you actually mount that next to it, well, every time you hit that, you're illuminating people's minds every single day. And so that's really the bigger vision of Better Light, Better Lives is trying to create a natural lighting system and using that as that consumable, that renewable fact that light is, it's something that you have to keep renewing and keep paying for over and over, using that as a vehicle to illuminate minds.
Very cool. So I want to dive a little bit into the charity side in a bit, but I want to dive a bit deeper into the actual tech and how the candle actually works, because I was watching the videos before we chatted, and it's really quite fascinating, all the technology that you guys have put into this thing. So do you want to talk about some of the features? Because just watching the video and like a kid walks by and he bumps the table and the thing blows itself out, it was pretty cool, right? And there's a bunch of other things that it does, but that to me was the most fascinating part. So walk us through kind of all the features that are built into this candle.
Yeah, I mean, because I was in a candle fire, I mean, my top priority was trying to get it something as safe as possible to reduce fire danger, right?
Sure.
And what can we do to reduce fire danger? Traditional candles burn down, right? They burn from up, gravity does their thing and they burn down. My candle fire was when the candle burned down and started like a table on fire, and that does happen.
Right.
So our candle never burns down.
Right.
It uses refills that keep the flame always at the top. So that's, from a safety perspective, that's better. And also from an enjoyment of the flame, it's better. Like traditional pillar candles, they burn down into that like tunnel of death where you lose the flame and you have to curse getting your lighter in there to try to light the thing and end up throwing it away.
Or burning your hand.
Burning your hand getting in there. So it gets rid of that. And also from a decor standpoint of accent decor, it allows people to have a consistent accent decor and actually have a pillar candle accent decor that is actually always beautiful and always nice. And so that's, from there, but we put timers in it as well, because if you did forget to extinguish it, it would do that up for you as well with the timers. So you have to, when you go and you ignite it, because we have igniters. So the igniters is an electric ignition system. So there's no gas in it.
Okay.
So if you drop, it's not going to blow up, right?
Sure.
It's using electricity.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Very important. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. And there's nothing flammable. There's nothing flammable in it, right? The oil that we use a liquid paraffin, which is has the same flammability as olive oil, right? So it's not going to drip out and then catch on fire on the carpet. So we've taken all that out of it, but we put tilt extinguish because I have pets, I have kids, and I have an elderly mother, right? Those are the three kind of target markets, right? You have elderly folks that are starting to get a little careless, they're bumping into things, they're forgetting to turn things off, and they can't get out of the chair, right? So they can't get up and light and turn off and things like that because they're getting older. And then you have people that have pets and kids with balls and tails and stuff wagging, and so we just put some features in there, mainly using sensors to extinguish the flame if it's tilted, if it tilts and falls like you saw in the video. We just use a pretty nothing that's not out in the market. We just enabled it in our patented solution, and enabled it into what we've got that looks like a beautiful decorative pillar, but just has tech enabled inside of it.
Sure. And people can buy different looking outer kind of pillars, right? Like you have a handful of styles.
Yeah, we have a handful of styles that we're launching with, three kind of more traditional wax, and then a couple of glass shells. We're launching with a black kind of sleek glass shell, and then a white kind of a white more. So for the more modern household, we are we've got those that we've developed, and we have a very limited amount of those that we're launching with just to see how the market responds, because the minimum order quantity on those is really high. So they were able to get us a few just to kind of get out and test the market on those before we really start building a ton of inventory in those.
Got you.
So, yeah.
Okay, and then you mentioned you have these little canisters that are refillable. How does the whole refilling the candle work? And how long does it actually last? If I just let it burn, how many hours do I get?
Yeah, so they're not refillable. They're interchangeable.
Okay, that makes sense.
So you buy a pack of two. They're called carrying candle refills.
Got you.
So the carrying candle refills, every 2-pack that you buy is a book out to a library, right?
Cool.
So depending how many you have, you could be contributing to dozens of books every month just by enjoying awesome, better candlelight.
Very cool.
They burn for 20 to 25 hours each, and they're about $5 each. So it's very affordable. So once you make the investment in your fixture, right? So we're really creating candlelight fixtures.
Okay.
Once you make a one-time investment in the fixture, then the use pays itself off.
And how
right?
much is the
the actual
fixture?
use? The starter set, everyone needs to get at least one starter set, because the starter set will get you your remote control.
Gotcha.
So your remote control and your starter set and a nice gift box is $129,
Okay.
and then it's $99 for each other candle you want to buy on top of it.
Gotcha.
So about $100 is what you're looking for as you start building your candlelight fixtures out there. And then, as I said, it's only $5 for about 20 to 25 hours. Per the refill candles, and you just pop them in and pop them out, and off you go.
Very cool. And then you also have the option that people can put in fragrance rings, correct?
Correct. Yeah. We've actually partnered with a very, very well-known fragrance partner who works with Yankee Candle and Bath and Body Works, and they've given us access to some really amazing patented technology to use in our particular application of this of a patented composite that they've built, which holds a really high fragrance load. So it has a really nice cold throw. Which cold throw means that even if it's not heated, it'll still have a little bit of fragrance. But as soon as you heat it up, it has a pan on the top, which is beautiful, like shaped like a sun, which is part of the illumination kind of motif.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And once that pan heats up, it throws a beautiful fragrance of your choice. So you can choose what you want when you want it. Unlike scented candles, you're kind of stuck for 100 hours or 80 hours with one fragrance. This, you could buy like all 6 fragrances or 10 fragrances and swap them out when you want them, put them back in the bag, try a new one, or not have any for a little while. And so it just gives you a lot more flexibility.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting. I was going to ask you how you pull that off, but you just mentioned it with heating up the thing, because I was like, traditional candles, you have to burn it to get the fragrance, right? And you're right. After a couple of days, you're like, I don't want to smell this anymore. So yeah, that's cool that you can swap that out and change that out. That's really cool. So when can people actually get a hold of these candles?
We're very fortunate. We sold out of our first batch
Congrats,
within
man.
about
That's
48
huge.
hours.
Wow.
Yeah, so we didn't make that many,
Sure.
but we made enough to go out and sell them. And so now we have our second batch is being made. We start production on November 19th, and they'll be shipping them around the 26th via air cargo container in time for Christmas.
Very cool.
The best bet, I mean, depending on when you air this podcast, I mean,
Sure.
Right now people can pre-order it by the time. Around the 9th or so of December is our plan to have everything in the warehouse and actually be in full swing e-commerce mode. That people can go and buy batch 2, which is a very limited. It's a collector's edition, so it's actually going to be each one is numbered off the production line to a limited run. So it's really our first major large scale production run. So it's a really neat opportunity to be part of something that's really the first of what will be a whole line and eventually a new revolution of natural lighting.
Very cool. So I want to cover something that I think people would have questions about. Do I have to plug the candle in or charge the remote, or how does that kind of work?
Yeah, it's got a rechargeable battery and a USB. So you just charge the fixture once every 2 months or so.
Okay, very
depending on your use. And
Sure.
if you're a power user and you're showing it to your friends and doing magic tricks, it's going to probably wear out a little faster.
Sure.
But no, on average about 2 months is what our estimate is. So we got to kind of get them out in the wild and find out if that's going to hold true. And then you just pull it down, stick the USB charger in, charge it for a couple hours, and then you're ready to go for a few months. So it doesn't consume a lot of battery, unlike the smart candle was really power consumer, because it was Bluetooth was always on and things like that. So it's not quite as power hungry.
Sure.
And so it's really convenient, and you don't have to buy batteries for it. So yeah.
Is the remote the same then? You just charge it every once in a while?
No, the remote control uses those little coin batteries.
Oh yeah, okay.
They last a really long time. It's a pretty standard
it's like
remote
years
control.
they last. Yeah.
Depends. Yeah, again, it all depends.
Yeah,
on
fair enough.
But lasts quite a while.
Very cool. So you've kind of mentioned throughout the show about all your charity work and around everything, but I really want to dive and make sure people are 100% clear about exactly what you guys are doing. So every time they buy a candle, you donate a book, or how does that kind of work?
So it goes back a little deeper. Like when I was traveling on my bicycle, I met a guy named Innocent who came on the back of my bike, and he shared a dream to start a school for AIDS orphans and the needy, right? This huge AIDS orphan problem in Uganda. And so I ended up helping him as a friend, and we had created a school together, which is still going today. Has 200 students. Just a fantastic friendship that's led to a really great school.
So you still talk to him, it sounds like.
Yeah. In fact, we're building a library. One of the 2 libraries is at his school.
Oh, very cool.
They don't have a full-blown library, so I'm actually going back there in February for my birthday.
Very cool.
He always likes me coming back to my birthday.
Sure.
And
okay, keep going.
So,
Sorry.
we're going to build a library out there. And that's good. And so we partnered with a company, not us doing it. It's actually a nonprofit, 40-year-old nonprofit called Books for Africa.
Very cool.
They're the largest exporter of donated and used and basically out of print books. So basically, like if a textbook goes from revision 6 to revision 7, that publisher will donate those books. Instead of throwing them away, they'll donate them to get the tax write-off or whatever. And then they keep all these books in Atlanta, Georgia. Volunteers catalog the books.
Wow.
And then communities and schools and churches and basically anybody who needs books out in the community can pick from the catalog, and then donors, which is like us, will go and sponsor an entire container to be sent out to various ports and then transported to these communities to bring libraries. And these libraries change lives. I mean, kids who never had the opportunity to have a place to go and read and explore and learn their passions now have a place after school to go and really learn and dive in. People learn to become farmers and learn to become students. I mean, it's phenomenal what it does to lives. And so, that's where the inspiration came from. So we're going to start there, but we're eventually going to move into programs in the United States and down in Latin America and Asia. And that's the vision, is to just continue to find communities that can benefit from having that gift of literacy.
No, I think that's really great. I love that. And I think the thing is too, that people forget, the internet is basically one big library of content. Sure, you pull it up on your phone or your tablet or your computer. There's still a lot of people in the world that don't have access to the internet, right? Even on a phone. So I think it's great that you guys are doing that. And sure, like an outdated textbook that's a year or 2 old isn't really that. How much content is really irrelevant? It's just they can't sell it or whatever. So I think that's really great, man.
Yeah, no, it's powerful. It definitely changes lives and makes a measurable impact in communities, and that's kind of what I wanted to do as an innovator. And I didn't want to just make money. I mean, anybody can just make money. I just felt like it was. And that's kind of the next generation of leaders, I think, and entrepreneurs in the next generation. I think they're believing that you can do both. You can make money and make impact and make it. And that's our responsibility to do so as a global community. So I'm kind of part of this next, vision.
No, I 100% agree. I think that's great, man. So I'm curious, though, you've been through some really good, big kind of highs and some lows just kind of on your journey throughout creating LuDela. Do you want to walk us through some of the things you've kind of learned along the way, or advice, or how did you get yourself through, some of the really hard times? Because I think it's so easy to give up, but you didn't. Like, you created this thing and you recreated this thing, and you're doing well now. So like, how did you pull yourself out of that?
I mean, most entrepreneurs will tell you that, the success of an entrepreneur is just not quitting.
Sure.
And you just need to just keep going, keep pivoting, keep moving, keep pivoting. At some point, you'll know when it's time to give up. If there's truly, it's just not working. But we never got signs that our idea wasn't valid. People validated the idea all over. And so we were getting validation from QVC, from Brookstone, from folks all over and different channels. So we knew we just had to figure out getting through the long development cycle.
Right.
And that's in hardware, that's hard. I mean,
yeah.
And so a lot of companies fail because they just can't find a way to skin that.
Right.
And they just go crazy. And I mean, I've got wife and kids, and I'm not proud of the amount of time, the moments that I've missed in their life. I've done my best to try to be as balanced as I could.
Sure.
But, you do have to make sacrifices, and folks will tell you have to make some sacrifices. So we signed up for that, and we're trying to pull out of that a little bit now, and be a little bit less 18-hour day focused right now, and a little bit more balanced, but still a lot of long days.
Sure.
But the biggest thing I learned, Kevin, is, if I can go back and do it again, it's just like you've got to trust your gut and trust your idea, because there's always experts out there. Yeah. My biggest mistake I made was I had way too many advisors. I listened to everybody's advice, and I kept changing ideas based on who I talked to, and like, you should do this. Oh, no, don't do that. Build this. And no, you don't. And then next thing you know, if you don't believe in yourself and have your own vision of what you're trying to create and share with the world, that's how people spin their wheels. And I spun my wheels way too long. I could have already been at market a long time ago if I would have just, got to the point of what I was really trying to do, and not listen to so many others and get too many chefs in the kitchen. And so, people don't have faith in their own ability. They think they didn't go to school enough. I just got off a bike. What right do I have to be able to create hardware and consumer electronics and things like that? Maybe he's smarter than me. And I listen to all these other people.
Sure.
And so I think, that's the biggest thing is, like, if you have a burning desire to create something and innovate and share something that you've come up with at the world, you just got to believe deep inside and get out there and build it.
Yeah, in a lot of cases, at least in my experience, you can tell me your thoughts on this, sometimes it's not even worth telling people that aren't entrepreneurs what you're doing, unless it's kind of your maybe immediate friends and family, because I find people are like, you shouldn't do that, you should do this. And it's like, we're 10 minutes into a conversation. You have no idea what I'm really doing. And I'm not trying to be negative. It's just that conversation could send you in the wrong direction so quick because it kind of gets in your head, right? So I totally get that. Yeah, I think that's actually really good advice to people, because I think it's so easy to get kind of lost and trapped, and you don't know how you're going to actually pull yourself out. And I've heard a lot of people that have been really successful talk about they still have no idea what they're doing some days, and they still feel like they're still figuring it out. But I think that's kind of important to mention, that feeling to a lot of people never goes away. Like, if you make millions of dollars, there are a lot of people that still feel like they have no idea what they're doing, and they're still figuring stuff out because it's just a different set of problems that they're trying to solve. Sure, they have more money to throw at the problem, but sometimes that creates more problems. So you know what I'm getting at?
Yeah, no, and you hit the nail on the head. I mean, people look at me and say, "Oh, you've got it. You're doing so great," and I'm like, "No, I'm not doing great. I'm scared shitless."
Yeah.
Excuse my language, I guess I'm on that end. But I'm scared. I wake up at 3:00 in the morning in a cold sweat. I mean, I don't know if that's success. I mean, It's scary sometimes. It's scary. I don't know if I'm making the right decisions. I have to make decisions on the fly all day. So that's what you have to do. You don't have time to evaluate every decision. Sometimes you're like, let's do that. Okay, we're doing that, and that's it. And you got to do that. Otherwise, you'll wallow around. So you got to trust your gut in those decisions, but those are scary because you've got other people's money on the line. You got your family's future on the line, and a couple wrong decisions can take things the wrong direction. So, I don't know if it's ever going to get easier, but it would be nicer if I can get some more people on my team and some people that I've been wearing a lot of caps. So I'm finally delegating and able to bring a few people on to kind of help balance things out a little bit, but.
Interesting. Actually, that actually is really good transition to my next question. I was going to ask you, obviously you're doing a bunch of things, and some you would probably openly admit you're better at than others. Some of those things you probably enjoy a lot more than others. How did you learn to do some of the stuff that you didn't think you were very good at and overcome that side of your growth before you could hire somebody to delegate that stuff?
Because you have no choice, right?
Yeah. Okay.
You're forced to figure it out. So you've got to kind of get in there and figure it out. And the innovation side and the business development side, all that stuff I love. I don't really like the officey stuff and the day-to-day grind stuff, and I don't really like managing employees either. And I wouldn't say being a boss or a leader of other people is necessarily my strength. So I've got to find people eventually who are better than me and than that at some point in the growth of the company, the way of organizational design and roles and responsibilities and human resource design and all that, things like that. It's kind of where I'm in now in growing the company, and it doesn't come naturally to me. So I'm having to learn and dive in and do my best here.
Yeah, no, that's interesting, because I think that's some of the hardest things to get over is your fear of doing something you don't enjoy because you have to, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So you kind of mentioned it a little bit early on that you want to create more than just candles and you want to bring kind of natural light into the home. How soon do you think you will get there? Is it years out? Is it months out? Or do you not really know?
Well, I would like to believe that the hardest work is behind us, in the sense that we have figured out finally how to blend consumer electronics and fire successfully, right? And to create a light switch for us. We've created a light switch for real flame candlelight, right?
Gotcha.
And for that natural flame lighting, to be able to turn it on. So we also, right now, we have an Alexa-enabled prototype, right? Alexa-enabled. Alexa, please turn on my candles, and then the whole room lights up, and people go, "Oh my God, I want that!" Right?
Sure.
It's not ready yet, but that is in development right now. We have engineers working on it. We have stuff going on. So that's a 2019 launch. You'll see. Cool. And those are the two fixtures I want, right? The fixture that's coming out now is really kind of standard decorative pillar candles that look like in scented home market, and you can change the colors, accent your decor, accent lighting, scented home. And then the next is the IoT space. It's the folks who want to be able to tell Alexa to do things, and they want to be able to have an indoor-outdoor fixtures that could be wall-mounted, surface-mounted, torch-mounted, indoor-outdoor.
Right.
But they're inside lanterns, so they're not open flame. And so that's how we're getting over that. So we're building our own style of lanterns, and then people can choose from different lantern styles. But there always will be enclosed because it is non-line of sight ignition. So we got to make sure if you can't see it, if something fell on it, it's still going to be safe because it's inside of a lantern. So that's coming out in 2019.
Very cool.
So, and then we want to take that on the Shark Tank in fall of 2019, and then really explode the brand and the vision and everything in 2019 when we have two devices, really one for those two distinct markets, but in that same kind of technology-enabled real flame candlelight sector, that in product category that we're really building and spearheading.
Interesting. So you've obviously spent a bunch of time manufacturing overseas. What advice do you give people that are looking to do something in the hardware space? Because it's extremely challenging, and you went through 18 versions in a year, you mentioned earlier. So do you have any advice for people that are looking to kind of manufacture overseas or even anywhere, really?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about anywhere besides Asia right now. Well, Mexico has a lot of the same things. It always is going to boil down to relationships, in Asia especially. So making trips out there, I wouldn't say go blind. Some people just get on a plane and go blind, and that oftentimes doesn't work well. So networking first, finding people who are successful and already have relationships with people in the particular hardware space and already have a manufacturing partner, already have people on the ground there that can help them. That's a great get those warm intros, but then you've got to be prepared to go out there and visit them. And I think the biggest advice is be prepared to travel and be prepared for yourself to get really granularly specific on your requirements of what you're trying to build before you don't go there. If you get wishy-washy, you're going to get wishy-washy results, right? Figure out what it is you want to build. What do you want it to do? What do you want it to look like? How do you want it to do it? If this happens, then that happens. If this doesn't happen, then this should happen. Like all that logic for what you want, whatever kind of boards, whatever thing you want to build, if it's consumer electronics, if it's design related, at least get, some decent sketches done.
Okay.
Here, you don't have to go that far because they have a lot of that in China. I mean, again, if I could go over and do it again, I would probably go that approach because there are good designers. There's industrial design, they're probably not the best. I mean, I think there's people will say industrial design should probably try to get a lot of that done, by someone that is going to take your vision of what you want it to look like. Right.
Okay.
But there is a lot of that even available now over there. So the key is just to be really specific how you want it to work and be willing to travel over there with good references and do your homework before you do.
Sure. So how long should somebody go the first time? Week, 2 weeks, a month? What did you find works the best?
Yeah, I mean, a month is pretty long. I mean,
Okay.
I personally have family and stuff, so I'm not going to go out a month.
Sure.
But I think if you plan your time right and plan the meetings right, a week to 10 days, you shouldn't need more than a week to 10 days to have some meetings,
Okay.
visit some factories, go out through some things. And if you can even get a quick trip out first, just to make the first meeting and then set them off on building the first prototype and then come back for the prototype build.
Okay.
So they know that they're building something and then they know that they're supposed to deliver something to you. And then you could walk out with it and then start testing those prototypes with them and give them some testing things for their team to do and your team to do. And then create a team environment that it's both of your projects. So going forth on that front there. So, and there's, I mean, the IP side of all that stuff, I mean, we got a patent in the U.S.
Okay.
We have a patent being done in China. And so there's a bunch of other stories that could be like a whole other show. And I'm not an expert at that. So, but if you're with good people and you build those relationships, technically they're not going to be throwing your stuff on Alibaba right when you go into production, right? Because you built a good relationship and you're in the partnership together. But I got a China patent because I wanted to protect my manufacturer from from people that are dicey out there and trying to being dishonest. So, that shows, I think, good respect to your Chinese manufacturing partners when you go the extra expense to get that China patent done on your end. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's quite fascinating. How did you find? Was there a big language barrier or miscommunications because of language?
No, my contacts are in Hong Kong. So they're Hong Kong-based owners of the factories that are just across the border in Dongguan and Shenzhen and, that whole Guangdong area in the south of China. Generally, you're going to find folks that speak English pretty well.
Okay. No, that's one thing that I've heard from people. They're like, well, I can't go there because they don't know the language. It's like, well, I'm sure you could probably find somebody English speaking or at least good enough, right, that you can get by.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's definitely a concern.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, we're kind of coming to the end of the show. So for people that maybe tuned in a bit late, do you want to just give a quick overview of what exactly LuDela is and then where people can actually check the website out to order one and get it in time for Christmas?
Sure. Again, this is a product that was, I was in a candle fire while I was out traveling in Africa, and that inspired this innovation of let's create a better real flame candle. There's been no innovation in 5,000 years in the real flame candle space.
Wow.
Except the LED candles, which is not a real flame, but
sure.
It became a multi-billion-dollar industry because it solved a lot of the problems with mess and candle fire risk, and so forth. So that's where that innovation came from. And then we decided to turn it into a B Corp and become a social impact brand that's dedicated to better lives for customers and the global community by donating books for every product sold to bring libraries to underserved communities and illuminate the minds of kids that are a little bit less fortunate. And so really, it's really amazing technology enabled candlelight fixtures that can be used to decorate and enjoy real flame candlelight and also scented home experiences with the touch of a button with a lot of safety features that they can have a safer, more enjoyable, more convenient real flame candlelight experience and creating really the vision, as I said, of natural lighting, right? So creating a natural lighting revolution where you can enjoy, instead of just clicking on a switch of fake artificial light, you're creating real natural lighting that's more relaxing, romantic, meditative, and helps you sleep better and live a happier and healthier life. So that's the vision of the product. And so LuDela.com, Ludela, LuDela.com is our website. We've got an e-commerce site that we actually just launched right now, a couple of days ago, actually. So we're taking a couple pre-orders because we sold out of our batch 1. And so we have batch 2s being made now, will be available early December, and be arriving on people's door before Christmas.
Very cool, man. So I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to be on the show, and I look forward to keeping in touch with you, and have a good rest of your day, man.
All right. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay. Bye.
Thanks for listening. Please visit our website at buildingthefutureshow.com to join the free community, sign up for our newsletter, or to sponsor the show. The music is done by Electric Mantra. You can check him out at electricmantra.com, and keep building the future.